Hello, and welcome to the Porcelain Don channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing House of Chains by Steven Erikson. Hello, and as I said, today I'm going to be reviewing House of Chains by Steven Erikson, the fourth book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series, and this will be my spoiler-free review. So it'll probably be quite short because there's a lot I don't want to spoil, but stay tuned. I will be also recording, as always, a spoiler-filled review. Apologies in advance because that one is probably going to be quite long. So here we are, Book 4, Malazan Book of the Fallen. This takes place, it starts before the other books, and then the through line goes up and it joins the timeline of the plot of the second book. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. I'm trying to tiptoe through here, so excuse me. And it follows one of the characters that we've already seen, and it fleshes them out. And this is a very after the first three books that were, mounting in terms of scope and scale, it narrows right back down at the start of this book to be focused on one character, which is strange and somewhat surprising. It almost seems like a detour until you get further on in the book and you see where it's going. But it again shows that Steven Erikson is a very brave writer. He does exactly what he wants, does it well, and that he has a clear idea, or had, sorry, these books are quite old. He had a clear idea mentally of what he wanted to do and how he wanted it done. At least it seems to me and he did it. He stuck to it. It's a very strange forward because, as I said, it goes slightly back in time and then overlaps to and then passes to slightly forward in time from where we were, so it does advance the timeline and the plot slightly. But the going back in time was also unnecessary. The character we follow was also unnecessary in that it it doesn't add to the larger plot so far, at least. You could continue to tell the main story without this happening. Not that I don't think it should have happened. It was really enjoyable. It's his story. It was very well done. I'm not saying I know better, but it's an interesting choice because it didn't need to happen to service the story. At least I think, unless this character goes on to become, the focal point, and what happens in the past goes on to be the focal point. But from here, it seems like a detour, a pleasant detour. Yeah, I don't want to be too critical because I love this book. I love these books. So far, fingers crossed, I continue to love them. But yeah, it's a very interesting choice. Another interesting choice was the character is awful. He's a terrible, terrible person. But then it plays on, and I can only speak for myself. I find him extremely distasteful. He does several acts, especially earlier on, but even later on, but several acts that are very heinous, and I'm not sure if Erikson is trying to just show us that he's a terrible character, or show us the depravities of war that everybody was doing back in historical times, and probably now we just hear about it less. But like, he's fundamentally a bad person. Yes, he has a code that he somewhat sticks to. He doesn't lie, at least, but he's perhaps too stupid to lie, at least at the start. But he's evil, or maybe not evil, but terrible. He's a terrible, terrible person. But then you have, as a reader, you have this infatuation Uh, it makes me feel like, you know, the girl that can't leave the bed, the guy who treats me badly, or the bad boy. I just have this attraction for the bad boy. Please comment down below whether it's just me. Not the attraction for the bad boy thing, but this character. There's something engaging about somebody just being a badass, And whilst he's a terrible, terrible person, the fact that he's so strong and such a good fighter, and that he just says what he wants, he has no fear. Like, you have an affection for him from this point of view. And it makes you question yourself. Am I just interested in accolades and not character? Am I just interested in who's the strongest and not what they've done? Like, it really makes you think on a fundamental level. What do I value in a character? And while all this is fake, it's a made up story. So you can like him because he never did any of the bad things that he was said he was done. He also never did any of the good things. It's a made up story, but the character as he is in the world, he did these terrible things, but he's also, you know, uh, ultimate badass. He's so strong, such a good fighter. And the more the book goes on, you see these extreme, extreme examples of things that he did, both bad and impressively good in terms of fighting and things like that. And just the fact that he's so stubborn and fearless, that also in itself is engaging. So I'm not sure what Erikson was trying to do, whether he's trying to make you like the character, whether he's trying to make you hate the character, whether he's trying to make you question yourself, whether I'm overthinking it. But I feel like with a lot of what I've read so far, like I said, this is book 4 in the Malazan series, and they've all provided questions, and they've all attacked fantasy in familiar and different ways, and they've like there's no gray. Sorry, there's all gray area. I don't know if we've seen any. Maybe Whiskey Jack was like all good, but I don't think so. I think he's probably committed some war crimes. Maybe I'm missing out, but yeah, I think he commits war crimes at the start. I don't know, but all these books are so nuanced that it makes you think, and it gives them a richness that you don't normally have in a lot of fantasy books, or when a lot of more modern authors try to do the nuance, but they don't have it. They don't do it to anywhere near the execution or the depth of what Erikson is doing. His writing, in terms of its profundity and its depth, is just unmatched. From what I've read so far, like it's amazing what he's doing with these books. Like I said, he's taking the road less traveled. He's making strange or surprising decisions, and he's pulling them off. After reading book 3, which is the most epic, amazing fantasy book I've ever read, and then taking it right down to a narrow, singular character POV. Maybe he knew, after such a spectacle in the last one, that he had to narrow it down because he couldn't keep going at that pace. Maybe it was, a calculating decision, or maybe he was just like, I like this character, I want to put his story in it. I think it's fun, or I think it's interesting, and it is fun and it is interesting. But not a lot of authors would do that and pull it off well, I think. Anyway, I feel like I've beaten around the bush as much as I can without going into spoiler territory. So what do I say about this book? Really interesting. It's an interesting character study on. It's almost like the hero's journey or a coming of age tale at the same time, even though the hero isn't really a hero. He's sort of an anti-hero and the coming of age. Uh, he's naive and foolish at the start and exhibits certain behaviors, and then as he gets older, he's slightly less naive, slightly less foolish, and he's become enlightened through seeing the world, but also he makes stupid decisions and he's somewhat terrible. So there's a lot to play with, but I really enjoyed this book. I'm hyper curious to see at the end what this part of the story adds to the bigger story. And maybe adds nothing, and that's fine, It was an enjoyable book. But at least the first third or two-thirds, I'm not really sure. I want to know if it was just a detour or whether that adds to something greater. Either way, great book. Perhaps my least favorite of the four, either my least favorite or my third favorite of the four that I've read. But as I love them all, it's not a criticism. Really, really enjoyable book. If you, for some reason, you stopped at book 3, dive into this one. You'll really enjoy it, perhaps. But if you enjoyed the first 3, you'll probably enjoy this because it's more Erikson all the time. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of this. Try to keep it spoiler free, just in case anyone who has hasn't read this book is looking at this video. So try to keep the comments as spoiler free as you can. There will be a spoiler filled video coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. As always, like and subscribe, and thank you so much for stopping by. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.